the 9th of March 2022. That means International Women's Day is behind us, but here on CTV, we're continuing with conversations that will help us to bridge the gender gap. And as we promised, since the 1st of March, we are bringing you experts and specialists in several fields who are shining a light and doing work that is bridging that gap. And today, I have very interesting people. There's a journalist, sports journalist, Makhtum, Shadic, Muziransa. Welcome to the set.
Thank you for the opportunity, first of all, but also for a chance to talk about women in sport, which is an area that I've tried for the past 8 to 9 years to shed a light on.
And we'll be hearing more about your story and what inspired you to join that. In particular, we also have a trailblazer in her own right, Ritah Asiimwe, who carried Uganda's flag last year to the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics. Welcome to the set.
Thank you, Martha. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here indeed. Happy to host you, rather. And later on, we'll be joined by Majidah Nantanda, who is a coach's instructor, to share her story. As is the tradition here on the month of the woman, we always encourage you to share with us what inspired you to join active sports. Ritah, I'll start with you.
Thank you. I think naturally I'm a sports person. It's embedded in me. It's engraved in me. So I got an opportunity really when I was really young, that schools having co-curricular activities and all that.
So that is in primary school?
Yeah, that is in primary school. Then O-level, HSC. Unfortunately, campus I wasn't able to join because the university I was in did not have so much
sports.
Yes. So
I understand that you played different sports. There was volleyball.
Running, netball. The only thing I feared was football because I fear being hit with. I would love to sit and I'm a very good fan of football. I watch people play and I love to see them play. I was inspired. I think I wouldn't say I was inspired. It was generally something that fired, something that was sparked.
So what I'm hearing is that where you grew up from, I would imagine there was a lot of playing, a lot of games in the community and the neighborhood, and so it was very natural for you to take part in the sports as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, there's not some much drive like push, go for.
You didn't have to think about it.
No,
it almost came like second nature.
A reflex or something that was evolutionary, like just.
And your siblings, were they also playing?
Unfortunately, my siblings are not too much into those co-curricular. They always actually laugh at themselves and they don't know what kind of species I am, but I'm totally different from them.
Okay, so it just wasn't the environment, it was something that was inborn. Makhtum, for sports journalism, I mean, you chose the field, but why women? Why focus on women's sports? I think it's something that we don't see very often.
It wasn't direct that you're going to focus on women.
Yeah.
It's just that for every sport you cover, there are women also playing it. And most times you would find that they play them concurrently with the men. So just out of wanting to tell their story too, I sort of got in a way where I would start concentrating on them. And over the years, I found it too interesting. There are people who would go to a football match and try to judge the women depending on what they've seen with the men. Fortunately, I'm not like that. I've managed to look at women the way they are, the way they play their sports, and that's basically what I've been doing.
No, but you tell your story like it's just obvious. I mean, I went to the field, I saw the women, and I wanted to tell their story. I think there's something you're not telling us, something that, because like you mentioned, they're always there, but somehow, and especially for the men.
If you're covering a sport like, say, swimming, every after the men race, the women race. So sometimes the women would start the show, then the men take it on. So that has been, like, you can't avoid it most of the time.
Yeah.
If you watch hockey, same story. I think it's mostly football in this country where they play at different times or different days and different venues. But if you look at volleyball, if you look at table tennis, if you look at chess, most of these other sports, the women play concurrently with the men, which helps to grow both fields, both categories at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because for others they might feel like, you know, if the women start the races, it's like, okay, curtain raising for the main event.
Yeah.
Or if they can't last, then it will be the main event has happened, and you know, because we know maybe the editor is interested in that, or we think the audiences are interested in that, so you just cover what is interesting and you leave. When you started out, the very first stories maybe that you did, was it a smooth sail for you as you paint it?
I wouldn't say such a smooth sail, but it wasn't also very difficult. It was about writing this one story where you also say the women also did this.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was current, sometimes because it was at the bottom, it was dropped. So it wasn't really direct, but as I said, basically you can't avoid them.
Okay. Ritah started us off by telling us how she's a different species in her family. She's very athletic, and at the moment, she's the Uganda #1 for Para-Badminton, and Para-Badminton, I mean, after, yeah, and in Africa as well. #2?
No.
Number one. Oh,
Africa.
after last year's games, which is a great thing. I mean, you had a personal incident that happened several years back, which caused physical disability. But for someone who grew up playing sports, you told yourself, in spite of it all, I must still go. Take us to how you chose. I mean, even before you are running, you're doing volleyball and many others. How did you eventually come to Para-Badminton when the physical disability happened?
It actually took me quite a lot of energy, time, resilience, and, you know, I find the particular game that I would fit in.
So you were trying different sports to
I
see
actually
what
not really physically trying.
Yeah.
But I tried to look around because I'd been into the different games, so I knew what kind of energy I needed for a particular game.
Yeah.
So I did not go to volleyball and ask them, do you think I can play this? Or go to basketball, do you think I can? No. Because I already knew most of the types of the games. So it was within me that I had to think of what can I do that is really going to fit into me, and then I'm comfortable at it. So netball, when I thought about it, I was like, no, that will not work for me. Then volleyball, I looked at it, you know, you need a lot of, you know, jumping and then balancing.
Yeah.
It may not also work for me as it used to work for me then. And then, so luckily enough, I landed into badminton, which I always thought was the softest game for me.
Oh, you had, before you had looked down on it because you thought it was soft.
True. I'd never seen myself play badminton.
Yeah.
In high school, no, because it was in high school we used to have it outside. It was an out game. So and then I would look at students chase around the shuttlecock in the wind, and I'm like, no, I ain't gonna play this thing where I have to chase the thing. It's so small, little energy. And then I was like, no, I needed something to feel like I'm doing something strong for myself.
Yeah.
So eventually I'm playing badminton. I mean, something that I underlooked. So it took me around approximately 10 to 12 years or
10 to 12 years to eventually find a sport.
Because I mean, from 2005
to
I think 2018, it could even be beyond around 14 years, I think, to discover a game I could just physically get into and be comfortable.
I understand that the idea to play badminton came from someone. Could you tell us about that?
So one time I'm seated at UBC, you know, I used to do my pancakes, so morning shifts, I would take them to different stations. Yeah. So I'm at UBC seated, and then I'm on of UBC together with, there's a lady she moves with, I don't know why I keep forgetting that lady's name already. So they approached me, they're like, Ritah, there are games for people with disabilities, Para-Badminton in Uganda. Maybe you could try go see if you enjoy, maybe try and see if you could love the thing.
And when they said that, what came to your mind?
I packed my things, rushed to the ground.
The natural athlete in you couldn't wait to take up the opportunity.
Trust me, I carried my pancakes. They were still there.
Yeah.
I took them to Gogo. I actually sold them to the people that I found in Gogo. So I reached there. Unfortunately, they had done already the selection, the classification. They were just going to do this classification, but the registration was already done. So they told me to wait for the next year. But then Mr. Mugabe was like, maybe you could stay around, see if not tracking like joining, but see how it goes. And maybe if I could pick interest in it. But also then, before I met Mr. Mugabe, there was my cousin brother, Leon Senyange, who was like, Ritah, you know you can do this. You know, that guy is funny. I was like, how did you even know I will do it? I haven't seen anyone play it. I need to see how they play. They jug around with the shuttle and then the racket, because I mean, I had to switch my brain to, I was initially right-handed, so now I'm a lefter. In my head, I was like, will I be able to handle the shuttle and the racket at the same time? That disturbed my brain for quite some time. It actually took me 2 weeks to understand how I'll handle the shuttlecock and the racket at the same time, and then serve. So that whole thing, I was like, let me stay around and see how different people are doing it.
And when you see you playing, I mean, especially from the footage, say, from the Paralympics, you seem very comfortable at what you do right now. And I don't know if the viewers can pick it so well, but you're someone who just does not stop. And it's a very interesting trait about you. You take life
Thank
like
you.
you just don't stop at anything, which is quite interesting. So you start training, and then how did it go?
So I start training. Actually, I stayed within the camp that whole time of the games. There are quite so many people came to help. Many coaches, technical team that was around
to help you.
Yeah,
to adjust.
During the time, the time of like they go off for break or something. There's that allowance of you can play around. So they tried to show me how. But by then I hadn't even removed my plastic hand. I would play with my plastic hand because I was so scared of removing my plastic hand. I was so scared of people seeing me. Yet I'm in the people that are already into that category, but because my mind was not used to that kind of life of people with disabilities, that was the very first time I get into a pool of people with disabilities. So I also had to put it in my head, get it clear that, this is where you belong.
When you saw the people, how did you feel? Did you feel like, no, I don't belong here, or you felt, finally, I have a community?
No, I think I was like, okay. I wasn't sure whether I really belonged there or as into the community, but what I knew was I was supposed to be part of them and learn their ways. Because, I mean, that is where I belong. So you took up a community. Yes, I took up a community, and then they taught me little by little in that whole time. So after, I think, like a few days, no one would tell me, Ritah, remove that thing, because I think they were also trying to hold my brain not to get me pushed too much, because they wanted the brain to process it by itself, bring out the real thing to me. Like, you're not supposed to be playing with that, because there's no way you play with it. It's heavy, first of all, discomforting. So as the brain got used to the society, and then I got used to the people around, because the majority of the people that are doing technical work are not disabled. So then there's this group that is disabled. So yes, so I have two groups to get used to: the non-disabled or the able-bodied, and then the athletes themselves. But then I have a friend, Elizabeth. At that small time, I made a friend. Elizabeth Mesigwa. She had to take me through everything. She was bold. She was like, Ritah, you cannot play with that. She was bold enough to tell me, Toina bogenda kuzanya nogo mukono.
And that was after how many days when she told you that?
I think it was like after 4 or 5 days. And she had to really tell me, you have, yes. She's like, you have to get used to this. I mean, there's no way you're going. You should even start moving without it. I was like, in my head, Elizabeth, are you serious?
Yeah.
I cannot. She's like, when you get to know what to do, you will do it. So we let it at that. So it took me about 4 days to get used to the whole community, but I would make sure I go into them every day so I get used. But then after that, life.
You went back to being the Ritah.
Yeah, I settled in and now got comfortable.
To being the Ritah that you know.
I can teach and tell on someone, it is okay.
What you seem to have a contribution that you want to make in that regard.
No, just maybe you haven't gotten to the end of her story, so I wouldn't want to jump there. But she talked of the process of 14 years, where she spent trying to find out what she can do in sport. And now she had that experience at being at the Paralympics. And I was here thinking, when you went there and saw all these other sports, saw all these other athletes, did you sort of feel that there was another sport? Do you feel that there is another sport that you could maybe handle?
Consider actually. We have things like Boschia that don't need a lot of strength. Just I don't know, it is not so common in here, but locally we have it dual. Dual game we used to hit with a finger. Okay. So with it you push a ball and then the ball hits the center ball. I mean, you just have to have the target and aim and focus. So there was also, there's so many games, though I don't really so many, but I think there are about 4 or 5 games that could join. That you could join. Are you considering joining them, or for now, if I wanted? Or for now, you're simply focusing on right now, I'm focusing because there is also table tennis. I was actually approached by TT people and they're like, Ritah, you need to do table tennis, come and play. But then I was like, no, I need to focus because I mean, if you start, what if I qualify for the 2 at the same time and I have to choose one. So what do I choose? That happened with so I wouldn't want to hurt my feelings of I wish I would have done this, you know. I wish how would I miss this yet and I don't want to put myself into that situation. Let me take one step at a time. If I am done with my badminton, maybe I can do table tennis in my leisure. Maybe if it is at home, not like international something, I can play it within, you know. Other than getting that interest or conflict of interest of which game to take on. Just like even athletics, I would join athletics, but then what if I qualify for athletics and they are the same day?
With badminton.
What do I do? So, no, I wouldn't want to go into interest of conflict.
But what you're saying really, as a Ugandan, it gives me hope because of the energy that you have and the determination. It means that we are looking at more wins to come, and I know that you're training hard for other tournaments that are on the way. I think we only have 2 medals, Paralympic medals for now, both by David Emong, one which was also got during the Tokyo 2022 Games.
He got a bronze actually.
A bronze, so he has a silver and bronze right now. But there's something that you mentioned during the games. One thing that came out from the interviews that I saw that you were doing, you mentioned that you're just having fun to start with. I mean, for a debutant, for someone who wants to go, why would you, what informs that approach of yours to say, you know what, let me enjoy myself for now, since it's my first time on this international stage, and people are thinking, oh, we need medals.
True, you need a medal. We all aim at that podium, trust me, right from the word go. But then in the middle of the game, you know your strength. You know how far you can do this. And then comparing to the kind of people you're going to meet, the platform you're at gives you the reason to say what you have to say. For example, Tokyo was a class above me. It was really a class above me. For example, the person I played, the Chinese, I don't know for how long she has played. She's actually number 2.
Yes.
Right now she's number 1 because she beat number 1
at that time.
Yes, at that time. So these are kids who grow up playing the same game. You cannot take your too experienced thing to the platform. Okay, yes, there's that chance you can win. You know, games are, it is something you cannot predict. That is the beauty of games. You cannot predict of who is going to win. But also sometimes I think the biggest thing, even if I was to win, I think I think I already had the fear, the thing of I've not been training, I don't have too much experience. So I really looked into me and where my way through, and I was like, Ritah,
you decided to take it a step at a time.
Do what you can.
Yeah.
I know the world will be disappointed, but I mean, you know what you are.
I don't know. I find so much inspiration in the way Ritah approaches life and sports. And we're going to go for a very short break, but later on, as I promised at the start of the show, we'll be joined by Majidah Nantanda, who will be with us to talk about the journey of how women's sports participation of women in sports has come a long way. So this is still C, Month of the Woman. Don't blink.
We entertain you. Ngawe tukuwata. Amanya Shami Manja, Omobwat, President Bidabidi Mokaga, Kabone Record.
Nanga wento na Aliyah Nafuka, you can call me Aliyah one, but tikutemo olwaleero.
Ani tubasuubiza ntugenda kubanga tuli mu bitundu ebyenjawulo. Ani yayambadde obulungi, kakoye ki akazze ku mulembe.
Ne gown ya black, erina tiara ya black.
Tiara?
Tiara. English of my kind. Tiara.
I feel the beat.
You feel the beat?
Yeah.
Show Majidah situations go ground. This is a professional that you yako.
Better call for CTV. Totally.
Don't blink.
Now showing on CTV. Don't blink.
We entertain you. Ngawe tukuwata.
Amanya Shami Manja, Omobwat, President Bidabidi Mokaga, Kabone Record.
Nanga wento na Aliyah Nafuka, you can call me Aliyah one, but tikutemo olwaleero.
Ani tubasuubiza ntugenda kubanga tuli mu bitundu ebyenjawulo. Ani yayambadde obulungi, kakoye ki akazze ku mulembe.
Ne gown ya black, erina tiara ya black.
Tiara?
Tiara. English of my kind. Tiara.
I feel the beat.
You feel the beat?
Yeah.
Show Majidah situations go ground. This is a professional that you yako.
Better call for CTV. Totally.
Don't blink.
Now showing on CTV. Don't blink. Since 1963, this shirt has united fans and players across the country. It is more than just an article of clothing. It is a sense of pride for us as we catch the kinetic action. In the heat of the competition, we stand with our champion. This shirt brings us together. CTV becomes the principal shirt partner for KCCA FC. We are committed to the game, to bridge the gap and bring you closer to the awesome team you love. KCCA FC, more than just a club. CTV, don't blink. The big debate is back. Bigger, bolder, reloaded. Whether it is securing your future, holding fast to the people power, or the promise of a one Uganda, one thing is certain, the big debate is on.
So why don't you respect the memories of Dr. Spondis?
We have already addressed the issue of increment.
How many people have ever been convicted?
Okay.
It's the way the politics plays in cabinet.
So now why are they asking for the statement?
Follow mainstream conversations on current affairs and leading policy debates in Uganda.
It is in our interest to handle arrested people very nicely.
Right here on The Big Debate.
Let me finalize this. I was quiet. I was quiet.
It's a hard hard-hitting talk show on development issues in the political and social-economic arena. Discussions that inform policy and trigger high-level dialogue. Now showing on CTV. Don't blink.
Welcome back from that short break, and thank you for keeping it CTV. You're watching Month of the Woman, which is special programming that we are bringing to you in line up with International Women's Day. Yes, it's the 9th of March. Women's Day is behind us, but that does not stop the issues and the conversations on issues that affect young women and girls in our society. And as we promised, since the 1st of March, we are bringing to you specialists and experts in various fields who are doing the most in shining a light on what needs to be done more to bridge the gender gap and break the bias. And today we have a special panel of people from the sports world. We have Majidah and Nantanda. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll be going into your story a little later on, as we had Ritah's story, and also Makhtum, a sports journalist who has found a niche for himself in especially focusing on women in sports. I've been waiting for you to join us because I wanted you to share with our viewers the story of how you actively joined sports. I read something about how you were so good. I mean, this International Women's Day or Women's Month, we are talking about breaking the bias. Yeah. And in your life, many times when you wanted to play football, they'd look at you and they say, ah, she's a girl, and they don't let you play. But the moment they watched you, they wanted you on their team immediately.
Yeah. Just an interesting story. Growing up as a young girl in my community. Yeah. Actually, I had a chance that I joined I was just like a young girl growing up and a child growing up in the community. But I thank so much my brothers. They always introduced me to these games, and they would take me on their teams. So because by then we had teams like boys playing, but it was hard for me to be allowed to go to any team, but my brother would always say, Majidah is on our side. But after like some few minutes, 10 minutes, these boys will realize, oh, Majidah is good. Yeah. So the next time it's like, oh, Majidah is on our side and Majidah is on my side. Yeah. So that's why even I began becoming a leader at that tender age. So I was the captain. And
you were so good that you beat them.
Exactly, actually better than most of the boys. And yeah. So they would put me on teams. So I grew up playing, though at first it wasn't good for me. Then when I was selected as a captain, then I would also enforce and say, hey, if you don't want girls on this team, then you're not on our team.
Oh, so you started bringing more girls on the team.
There were some girls who were like watching and said like, you. So I grew up in a community when even I was involving some girls. So it was sad, but again, at the end of the day, it was just interesting. And I enjoyed playing the game right from the age of 8.
And there was something interesting when you were younger, you didn't notice, the gender disparity. I mean, you said kids were kids. Exactly. But then you noticed that when it was time for playing, your brothers would be let to go, yeah. But you had to be held behind because you had house chores to do.
That was the most touching, and sometimes I cried because as a girl, I always had to do the chores. Like my mom was like, Majidah, do that during holidays. Yeah. So my brothers were free to go and play. So I was like, why am I doing this? But these good brothers of mine would come, sometimes we go and play. So before mom would come back, they would help me with the house chores. Yeah. But sometimes I would stay and cook to join them. So it wasn't good for me. I was feeling bad. I didn't know, like, because I was growing up as a child, I knew like we all have the rights, but somehow I'm a girl, they are boys. I had to face that as well.
Very interesting. And then you joined the sports and you've been mentored exactly. Along the way. Yes. I mean, leave alone being good, you were noticed. Exactly. And there are people who held your hand to help you become even better. Yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, throughout my life, I've been helped. I've been spotted. I've been identified. Joining the sport like women playing, people don't know, but I came when women had already played football. I'd even traveled to Kenya, Mombasa, those Oliver Mbekeka and the group. Again, it's my brother who came and said, hey, Majidah, I saw some women playing football at Queensway. By then there was a field, their ground, like the sports ground. But I think you can go and try. I saw the women and some girls, but I think you are better. I said,
how old were you at that time?
By then I think I was like 15 going to 16, because that's when I joined the national team. So it's like, come and try. So my elder brother, actually, very interesting, because now I teach him as a coach, because I'm a coach's instructor.
Yes.
Idika, so he's doing a C license now. So now I was like, okay. So when I went there, I watched, I didn't like it. Because for me, I was used to this entertaining kind of playing with my brothers and boys, making tricks and having fun. But these women looked so serious. And I didn't know, I was like, why are they playing like this? Because everyone wanted to kill each other. They were doing unnecessary fouls, you know. It didn't come to my mind. But then after I told my brother, but the way they are playing, I don't think I like it. It's like, no, they're in competition. They are being selected. I said, what do you mean selected on the team? It's like I said, I'm not interested. So as we went back, we had to walk back home. It's like, please, I said, no, I don't like it. So until he said, until I thought, but I've seen this one young, that short woman or girl. That was Oliver Mbekika. The way she was playing, I liked it, because Oliver was free with the ball, she could dribble, and she was doing things I do with boys, like, you know, those tricks on the ball. It's like, you can be like her, and actually you're better. So because of Oliver Mbekika, that's why I went back to train with those women. And that's when I went into team training, and I suffered, but at the end of the day, the rest is story, like the story I'm telling now.
I would like to bring Makhtum in this. I know that maybe as a doctor with their patients, journalists also get very attached to it. There are sources of news that they often like. But what was the first time you met her, and what was your impression, you know, when you got to know her?
You speak of a doctor, and I need one. I'm doing badly with a cold, but
sorry.
Majidah, yeah, I got to know her before I actually met her.
Yeah.
Because by the time I started doing sports journalism, she had already finished playing, and she was into what she does now, I think even does better, scouting players.
So you think she does scouting better than training?
I didn't see her play. That's what I'm saying.
And training rather, training.
No, she does train, because the time I first met her was actually in 2016. I'd seen her before, but casually. But 16, when she was the national team coach, that's when we first had the first interaction. And she was the team coach for the Crested Cranes. At the time that rebranded, I think when you played for the national team, it was Shikobs. So it had rebranded that year to Crested Cranes, and she was the national team coach at the Sekafa Championship that year. So that's when we first interacted, but lots of stories about her flowed back. The kind of player she was. She speaks of Oliver Mbekika, who is, I think, one of the best players we've had in the female.
He's placed her, by the way.
Yeah, I think if you're ranking, you would have Majidah, Oliver, then the current generation, there is
Annette
Asfa's mother. So Asfa is a common name now. Asfa Nasuna. So the mother also played with them. And that generation. So then their children are also the current generation, but Oliver Mbekika is the assistant coach for the under 20 and under 17 national teams. So you can see that their generation stuck to the game. And the first interactions going back was, she had spotted a player that no one believed should be in the national team. 15-year-old at the time, Fazila Ikwaput. And people are wondering, this national team that has been losing to Kenyans for all the years in the past, the Ethiopians, I think you played against Ethiopia.
In 2001. 2000.
So that's, people are wondering why would bring in a 15-year-old in a national team that needs to get a little more serious. And I think Fazila has also proved that she's one of, if you rank the top 10 currently, she's somewhere in there. So I think that's why I say she's doing better with scouting talent. Also, she's doing a lot of work with Jean Seninde.
Like in mentoring.
Mentoring
I helped her to be what she is now.
Bringing up the younger generation through the grassroots.
So you met her, that story, the coverage, because usually when you're doing what you believe is right, and there's all this talk and so many stories, and you know you have to stick to your guns.
Exactly. Actually, talking about that, I'm more of mentoring, because it's talking about Equaport. But Ruth, by then when we had a national team, because I became the first ever women national team in 2009, coach, 2009, under 20. Then after I was promoted to senior team. But all those players, most of all the players that started the league, I spotted them from nowhere. We had no clubs. Ritah, I saw when she was in S1 at Naumali. She was this small, tall girl in sorority SS. And just in a few minutes, the way she was, it's like, this girl is good. By then, I wasn't coaching, but I was moving around into communities. So I went on telling the people, coach of Kawempe, Chitende by then had a very good team. Masakai says, that girl is good, that girl is good. As young as she was, see where she is. So scouting something, identifying talents, like you said, I think something I wanted to do through mentorship, because even talking to the girls, leave alone coaching, because of course I'm a qualified coach, but I also want so much, not only for these girls to play soccer, but also use football as a tool to develop themselves.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So that is bringing up ideas on what we are doing right currently, because I would say that participation of women in sports has come a long way, has improved over the years. To tap into your opinion, Ritah, what do you think we are doing right on the national level right now that has enabled you to become, you know, Africa #1 in para-badminton and even going to play in Paralympics?
I think for badminton will differ from
football.
Yeah. Yes, it totally differs, because here it is your personal will.
Yeah.
You're personally scouted, you're personally engaged, you're personally driven. So it is your passion and resilience that keeps you there. Because with badminton, there's no one is going to mentor you. Like, the truth is, I will not, apart from the other thing of I went to and then they told me keep here or something. No, there's in the time I've been with badminton, there's no mentorship. There's no mentorship. And you alone. It is you that feels like, I think I am doing the right thing. I think I should stick. I think, and then you have purpose for why you're doing it. For example, me, I would say, reasons why I stayed there, when I reached the house there, and then after staying with the people of the same caliber, after engaging with them and realizing the challenges and the problems and everything that is within the community, the very society, the people with disabilities, I realized I had a responsibility personally. I don't know how, but I felt I had a responsibility of one. I felt like they needed a voice. Yeah. We needed a voice because they had told me, because they had been there since I think 2016. That's when Para-Badminton started. But a lot of complaints that they have, or they had then before I really joined, because I'd been interacting, I realized there's a lot of problems, and then we need to speak out these things. So I realized every time we talk to, I know my coaches will be pissed with me, but me, I love speaking the truth.
Yeah, so that's why we're having this conversation.
There's no way we will grow, or there will be program attractiveness to the organization as long as we stay secretive and wanting to paint it, you know, you look at it, it is so shining, yet inside it's rotting. No, I don't like that kind of life. Okay. Yeah, so we reached there, there's a lot of challenges. Even up to now, we still have challenges. And I will still say, if we had mentorship, or if we have mentorship, trust me, the Para-Badminton would be far, or even badminton itself would be as good as sounding as football it is. Because, I mean, we have players. Only that right now, I would still appreciate, you know, yes, they are bad and good. Yeah. With the able-bodied, they are scouting students from lower classes, like, you know, pupils joining senior 1, senior 2. So, so for example, where I train from in Entebbe Institute, my coach, Coach Betty, she has a club, an institute. It has students from lower classes. So these kids are joining high schools on bursaries, you know. So that's how badminton's future is growing. But not particularly because my coach goes out there and scout it. You get it? Yeah. So I'm saying...
So the bursaries is what we are doing right.
Yeah, the bursaries are doing the right thing.
Since we're shining a light, and the reason why we're having these conversations is so that we can do better.
Yeah.
The challenges that you said your colleagues mentioned to you when you had joined, what are some of those that are unique, especially to the community?
Now, when I go back to Para-Badminton, because, you know, the able-bodied, I think, are drifting on the right side because bursaries are pushing them. That is the basic thing why we have badminton growing in the country. But when we go back to Para-Badminton, if we can also have the same opportunities of can they support a person, a disabled person with talent in lower class, maintain that person, give them these, because they also need school. They need schooling, they need enlightening. But is there anyone interested in taking on a disabled with talent? We don't have that in Uganda yet. I've seen it even at a level where we are. I don't think they have interest yet because the statements they keep saying, I mean, this is for your own
So you feel like they're doing you a favor instead
you
of
get
making
it?
your talent
Yeah, we
shine.
feel like they're really doing, they feel they're doing it as a favor by even creating the opportunity that is there. And I wouldn't want that to grow up, because if we stick to that mindset, then there will be no program progressiveness. You get it?
Yeah.
Like we shall not have Para-Badminton existing for more, because people will be like, no one is helping me here. Because in Uganda, okay, we come from a third world country, we need a lot of help, but I wouldn't want to believe in, because the thing is, personally, not that I've, financially is me, there's so many people that have held my hand, trust me. So many people. I've survived on people's help.
And I know that you're even calling for more help, especially
exactly.
as
Even right now, I'm still calling for more.
For Paris 2024.
Yes, even right now, I am calling on for more, because I need to attend tournaments. The National Council has no funds. Because we need to collect points. And now, right now, I feel like my position to Paralympics 2024 is kind of, you know, yes, it is under threat. I feel like I'm losing track.
Where is the threat coming from?
You see,
to paint for us a picture of
I'll take you back to a story of a badminton player again, Ekirin.
Yeah, Ekirin.
In 2015, he was trying to qualify for the Rio Olympics.
Yeah.
A few points away. At the time, he was the world the African number 2. Needed to be the African number 1 to have a chance of qualifying for those Olympics on merit in Rio. He missed 2 tournaments. I think he had 3, and he needed to go to at least 2 to make up the points to qualify. So he missed 2, got money for the last one. So it didn't even make sense going for the last one because he needed to go to 2.
Yeah.
So that way he missed going to his, I think, 3rd Olympic Games. So that's the problem when you don't attend the qualifiers, because badminton is peculiar in a way that you accumulate points for you to qualify by playing qualification tournaments here and there.
It actually depends on how many international tournaments you've as well attended. You may have as many points as you won, but they also calculate how many external tournaments have you attended. Because, I mean, there are so many things they are going to look at. And now you are waiting for Uganda International and all Africa. And then how are you going to accumulate points waiting for, because now with Para-Badminton it's totally different. Now, for example, right now they are into Spain, the second lot of Cartagena, because we missed their Madrid one, Victoria, and now they're into Cartagena. There were 2 tournaments in a row. And me, I thought, because those are good points to come, you get it. Now, you miss out Cartagena, you miss out Madrid, those are already 20 points gone. And then you come, there's Brazil next month, which is, then there's Dubai the next month, and you're not attending any of those. So when are you going to catch up with a person who has been attending over 5 tournaments in a row, and you're waiting for Uganda International at the end of the year?
Also, beyond points, let's say you accumulate the points and go. You will never be as good as someone who has had
been
the
on court all
exposure.
the time.
Which is the challenge you faced when you went to Tokyo.
Like
because you are playing with
the more
China.
you play with these people, the more skills you get, the more the brain gets to open up to those courts, to those people, to
and
to
also
the entire
more you
environment.
Understand the opponents,
you also
especially
understand
the top
the
ones.
opponent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So paint for us a picture. How much does it take for you to go for at least an international tournament?
Every international tournament takes approximately, right now because of COVID times, it has increased. It's around Ugandan shilling around 13 million or 14 million or 15
per trip.
Yeah, when you put everything together because COVID sujui
so
what.
That's about 3,000.
That is about 3,000 or 2,700 something US dollars or.
And for the ones that you've attended, you mentioned that you've had a lot of help from other people. How much, like the percentages, have come, say, from the state and then from your personal pocket and then from the other people?
I'll say 70% comes from out of the country.
From donors?
From donors.
Yeah.
And then the government comes in with probably 20-25%, that, because the last tournaments, I would say, they apart from Spain, which was last year, where even after fighting for it, I was fake because I know they will be back and will be like, Ritah, what's wrong with you? But yes, it's wrong with me because I don't see things being done right. We as players, you do okay. Yes, I have all the guys to go and ask for money or funds from someone.
Yeah.
But then you, as the head, federation head, what is your role? Are you just there to wait for me sign the paper? Yes, Ritah is being endorsed to go for the tournament. Is that the only role we have as leaders? No. In my aspect, I expect my coach to draft a strategy, have a proper plan of Ritah. Next year we have a calendar because these calendars come a month or two to the new year.
Yeah.
How many tournaments is my team going to attend? Prioritize how many players do I want to attend these tournaments. Plan for those players. Send in a requisition of whatever, because the government releases funds late. But I also know there are always that working capital in the federation, in the organization that takes for the federation. You get it?
Yeah.
So put in your request early enough. Plan. You get it?
Yeah.
I think that's what we...
Can you relate with football?
Actually, what she's talking about, it is what happened to us way back when we were playing.
Way back.
Yeah.
But now things have got better.
Because we've changed. We are the change you want to see.
Yeah.
I captained the national team. There's nothing I don't know. I've had all that experience, the suffering. We used to train ourselves. And then FUFA would come in and take us to camp for 2 weeks and we'd go and play against Ethiopia. But after that, we'd train our own at settlement, a very poor field. And how did we actually start training? Like we had a Depot and Rose. Those referees, they were FIFA referees by then. So Rose would find you and they would say, hey, Captain, I think I have an appointment. I'm going to go to Tanzania. So I would come and tell my colleagues, you know what, maybe there's a possibility of us going for qualifiers. Yeah. Even we had no chance of knowing whether we were going to be registered or not. Then we would train for all those 8 months and FUFA would come and take us to camp and then we play. When we win, they celebrate, and then we go back. But it's the mindset, you see. What she's saying, when I grew up in that and becoming a captain, and I said I wanted the change for this generation.
And I see a change, a trailblazer.
Exactly. And then I said, I'm the change that I want to see.
Yeah.
So I sacrificed even before he saw me. But since 2008, 2009, when I retired in 2007, I'm so lucky that I was spotted, like identified on merit from my playing to my coaching career. Was identified by FIFA German instructor, in about 50 men coach, there were about 50 and we are 5 women. He recommended him to the federation to become a coach. Again, CAF called me. So, but when I came, I was like, I will be the change I want to see. Scouting the Ritah Chivumbi. the true, helping Jean Senine to become what she is. Fauzia, 15 years in Sorota, I found her in Sorota, and now she became the, it's me to say, this is the change I want. And I was doing it just to show people that I think if you can do this, it will be better for us, for this new generation.
Was it an uphill task, like she's alluding to? Because sometimes when you want to bring change, you might be exposing certain people.
Actually,
how did you handle that?
Listening to her, she will be the change she wants to see for badminton.
That's for sure.
Because I was an athlete like you, okay? But I brought up that change. I do a lot of things because, you know, even before I went for mentorship abroad, I started this in 2009, scouting girls all over the country, talking to girls and telling them always, all these girls, please don't be like us. Use football as a tool to develop yourselves. For us, we are exploited. But now don't be like us. And the message I've gone in. Do you see how all these girls are going now? They are playing football, they know. If I'm not at school, I have to play football and work. If not, I have to find a way to go for professional. It's the change I wanted to see.
And it's the change
I initiated
that you have brought.
Exactly.
On the issue of backlash, I don't know how you would advise her because she mentions that a lot. Did you go through that and how did you handle that?
Yeah, okay. There's a lot of things that happen when you're still active athletes. Sometimes I would cry and then it's like, now we need this game. You see, I remember one day it was so sad. We came from it, we traveled, you know, of course, we went, and after when we came back, I don't remember the game. So we had this, our coordinator by then, and when we reached from the airport to Kampala, so they started driving us around the city. So we were like, what is it? We are looking for the treasure, can you imagine? But the coordinator wanted us to get tired so that everyone would go. So I went and approached him as a captain, said, coordinator, Mr. Wiego, may he soar in peace. Why are we just like Majidah? We don't have money, Captain. But as much as we, I don't know how many times we went around the parliamentary building. Yeah. So that thing pissed, and of course it happened. Everyone was like, we are leaving, we are leaving, we are leaving. Until I stayed in the car with the coordinator and Oliver because we are the captains. Yeah. So that one's like, why? I think we have the right to be told that there's no money. And actually we are self-motivated, intrinsically motivated. The first time I went to represent the country in '98 in Egypt, I didn't know that I was going to be paid. I never knew that I would even go and board a plane. Yeah. Now let me tell you one explanation. One of the chief Dimisho, very excited, a very young girl. We didn't know about, you know, I was 16 by then. I didn't know about competition. I went to Egypt, this big room, all like, a big room as big as my mommy's house, you see. So the excitement, the call, so I went down the lobby to tell my colleagues to get their numbers and call. And this lead of delegation, I'll not mention his name, it's like, just, I think that's what he used to do, sitting in the lobby. Immediately when I was coming, say, hey, Majidah, I said, yes, Mr. Should I give you your money in Egyptian currency or Ugandan? Definitely, as a young girl, I said, where am I? In Egypt, Egyptian. This guy just gave me money. I didn't know how much he gave me. And you know what I did? Just bought these boots and everything. But when I came back, Oliver, like I said, she was more intelligent. I found Oliver having dollars in her purse. Yeah. It's like, Oliver, where did you get this money from? It's like, hey, didn't you get your money? I said, we're supposed to be paid. I thought Mr. Someone just gave, it was a favor. That's exploiting, you see? And those are the changes. So when it comes to finances for the girls, you've heard me, I speak out. Yeah. These girls need to be paid or else.
That ends it.
Exactly.
Yeah, still about the challenges that they face. She has talked about the payment, which is a huge concern for most of the athletes right now. Because one, they sacrifice a lot, especially in the period of training. No one cares about training here in Uganda.
We only want the results.
Yeah, people care about going for a tournament at the end of the day. No one really pays attention to what these athletes eat, what they... Medication, the injuries they get, where they sleep. Especially in the leads towards qualifiers. Yeah. No one really cares. After they've qualified, yes, everyone will jump on board and they want to help them, put them in a camp or something like that. I know. So no one wants to be part of the process. No one wants to be part of the process, which is an indictment on our sport. But we hope people out there can listen and change and be more involved in the preparation, because once you make the preparation right, then you get numbers that qualify, especially for these individual sports. For football, yes, you will always need 23 players, so there is nothing much can change in terms of numbers. But for the rest of the sports to grow, we need more exposure and more experience for athletes. The only way we can prepare them to have the right exposure and benefit from it is if we make the preparations better. And the only way of making preparations better is funding them.
I think funding is the main thing that still comes up in all the sports and the lead up to the tournament.
And that funding also goes to other aspects, like facilities. If you want to have proper facilities, you must be willing to invest in them, either to refurbish those that are spoiled or completely construct new ones.
Okay, on that very note, you'll hold all your points right there. We're going for a very short break. When we come back, we are talking about solutions, what we need to do better. We've already looked at the journey of where we've come, and that is our conversation here on C Month of the Woman here on CTV. Don't blink.
The big debate is back. Bigger, bolder, reloaded. Whether it is securing your future, holding fast to the people power, or the promise of a one Uganda, one thing is certain: the big debate is on.
So why don't you respect the memories of voters for this?
We have already addressed the issue of increment.
How many people have ever been convicted?
Okay. It's the way the politics plays in cabinet.
So now why are they asking for the statement?
Follow mainstream conversations on current affairs and leading policy debates in Uganda.
It is in our interest to handle arrested people very nicely.
Right here on The Big Debate.
Let me finalize this. I was quiet. I was quiet.
It's a hard-hitting talk show on development issues in the political and social economic arena. Discussions that inform policy and trigger high-level dialogue. Now showing on CTV. Don't blink.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching CTV Month of the Woman, which is special programming that we've been bringing to you since the 1st of March 2022 in celebration of International Women's Month. And we are bringing you specialists and experts in various fields who are shining a light in helping to bridge the gender equality gap on issues really that affect young women and girls in society and young people. And with me today is a special panel of people who are doing the most in sports. We have a sports journalist. We also have 2 athletes, a para-badminton athlete, and also a coach's trainer who is Majidah Nantanda. And before we went for the break, they were telling us what we've done right so far. In sports, in the field of sports, we've seen that there's been mentorship and scouting of talent, but also there is an issue on funding, which we're talking about. And now we'll be talking especially what needs to be done. What needs to be done? We'll start with you. In sports, we've seen more participation. We have more teams, different ages, different categories, in different fields. Yeah, so you can still tell us a little more. Your story is interesting because you've been you're a self-led person. You don't take, no for an answer. You go, you see what is right and you go. You're naturally talented and gifted, which is the same with Ritah, who is seated right next to you. And I believe that she's going to take inspiration from you. As she you already have. Yes, and that's very good to hear. Yeah, so tell us more on what now needs to be done. Yes, we've moved. Yes, we are seeing more girls taking part. Yes, we are seeing all that. What more do we need to do to increase participation of women in sports in Uganda?
Yeah. That's a very good question. I think now what we need to do is like to do better planning.
Planning.
When we talk about there's no money, but there's money in sport. Talk about football. FIFA gives a percentage to women. A lot of money, actually.
Yeah.
So only how you plan for it and how you want to invest it. Because sometimes, I'll say this, now FIFA provides national teams for women to at least go and have equipment. They pay equipment for these ladies. Because before we used to put on Samogeri's shirt, okay, big as it is, you know. But now you see the girls are putting on well. It's a fun.
I can't even see what she's wearing right now.
So FIFA is actually talking about football. FIFA is also providing that. Yeah. And I heard, because I'm a CAF at elite instructor, we share as women. We have a panel that even FIFA helps teams or national teams to take these women, senior teams, for camp or for international games. Okay. Yeah. So if we have such finances, how do you use them?
So the planning is on.
The planning
on which level?
At all levels, and even at the top, because the federation I talk about football is the Federation of Uganda Football Association, badminton is the federation. These people in those positions, they would also think about women. Not all about exploiting us. I always tell us, why do you exploit us? You know, why do you exploit these young girls? Yes, we are talented. It's a gift from God, but at least help us where necessary. Yeah. Now look at the league. For me, I've traveled at all countries, but I go just because of sports. I've been mentored by Global Sport Mentorship Program. Mentoring program is by the US Department of State. So when I go to these institutions and see what happens, when I come back to Uganda, it's like we still have 30 years to develop. And that's why I do my own things. I'm so driven. Yes. Because if you have some finance, yes, you need sometimes to sacrifice. Yeah. Why don't you have a pay, like a little pay for these athletes, more so on the national team? I'm looking at athletes, women athletes with nutrition. We are women, we are girls. To have money if you're not working, what do you do? Things we do, and when we play sports, we are not allowed to. Do you want them to go and sell themselves? So why don't you give them that little? Because nutrition is very important. But if I don't eat well, do I play better?
Not well. Yeah.
Not all these women or girls stay in their homes. I was like, I stayed with my mom until, but I saw my colleagues struggling in
because
ghetto,
they had to pay
renting, just because they want to be at settlement.
You're pointing at yourself. Is that what you're saying?
So sorry about that. Yes, you see, I know this with experience. Coming all the way from Umbale because she was told if you don't come to settlement, you'll not be selected on the national team. Yeah. There's one lady now, she's so stressed. I know she had 5 kids, but all the 5 kids, she was doing training at settlement or national team, not knowing when we are going for engagement. After that training, she goes back to Mbale. She was so unlucky that whenever she goes, the husband would know. 5 kids. What? And now, none of her kids have gone to school. The lady's more of a pauper now. Yeah. She's called Manashe Fatuma. You see? So all that, if we had planning, if we had planned for us, okay, at least give us a little bit. If you had a better planning that Manashe don't come from Umbala, at least stay will support you from there. That's why even I initiated moving around the community to support those of Ritah to find a couple. Because I was doing the experience, what I've gone through. So we should plan and let this federation use these finances more so gotten by just for us women, as it's supposed to be. I know they are there, there's that. Try to motivate them. I don't believe in there's no money. But again, I don't believe that players will be motivated because of cash. I believe in intrinsically motivated, but even external motivation is needed for these women to take care of themselves, buy them good food for nutrition. We are women.
Medical care, yes.
Medical care.
Yes.
They have rental to pay for those who have not yet built. Sorry about that.
Also, whatever it is they need the money for is anyone who does a good job needs to be compensated for it, no matter what. There are so many people out there who are entitled. They look at them and say they are talented, they are playing for their nation. What more do they want? But everyone...
You've heard that statement several times?
Yes.
Everyone needs the right motivation and compensation for the job they do.
More so
because if they put their tools down, then who represents the country?
Yes.
So it's a double-edged sword they walk, but at the end of the day, they need to be compensated.
But psychologically, they tune these girls that they are being helped.
Yeah.
You don't help me to be on the national team. Like what happened to me to Egypt. If I need my right to get my money, I'll tell Mr. like, hey, you are supposed to give me $1,000, but you gave me 50. You get that? Yeah. So, or whenever I don't tell these girls, you don't help them. They sacrifice a lot. Give them that little they deserve to get.
So what I'm hearing is that there are gray areas also in the rights of players.
Exactly. Yeah. And I advocate for that. I'm
telling
you
the challenges of our sport. beyond funding, we have facilities that we've already talked about. Then I think biggest challenge is with administration, and that's where all the points they are sharing lie. That's in terms of planning, in terms of preparing athletes the right way, and also for these federations, because the athletes don't know their rights, but so do the federations. Most of the federations, the people serving in them are also volunteers. So they do not know what they have to do. They do not know what kind of pressure they have to put on government to fund, for example, national teams. They take so many things for granted, and many people in our federations do not just get it. They don't know what they are doing. So those are the problems, those three mainly. And then maybe the others that you can add, things that are, I think they would also fall under administration, things like players' health, players' nutrition, and all that. But if the administration knows what they are doing, they're able to capture all those problems and address them.
Actually, it's talking about that. I think federation should hire experts. She's an expert in badminton. She knows when I'm not feeling well. As women, we have, we are women, have those cycles. Because we lack experts, they don't know when Majidah should be loaded. Because when I'm in my periods, I may not be able to get exactly. And then these people, because they are unprofessional, they'll push you. But why are you not sprinting? Why are you not running? Yes, I'm a sprinter, but today I'm not good. So if you know that my body is telling me, Majidah, slow down, because you're in your periods. But my coach doesn't know that. And we don't have an expert around to know about women. Because we need to be taught as women, coach women as women, not as small men, okay? So all those things should be known. Nutrition for us is very important as women with our periods. If I don't eat well and I have all these monthly things, collapse. Exactly. So also that, very good point about our health. Meaning, how do we train, physical training, how do we eat, that is nutrition, and our health as women.
And you see, you made an important point about football vis-a-vis other sports. See, football has had this world approach to how it develops in every country. But now everyone knows what you need to look up for. Most football players aspire to play in Europe. So they know that in Europe you come through the academies, and then the underage teams, the youth teams, and then a senior team, and you come through having lots of mentorship. So now the rest of the world aspires to something like that. If I have my 14-year-old athlete, I know that if I want them to play in Europe, then I've got to be organizing youth teams, I'm supposed to be organizing academies. So with football, you'll find this whole setup in almost every country. So football has that natural way of developing. That's why they're able to get mentors to Uganda. That's why they're able to have all these camps, all these football agencies that come from all over the world to come and help other countries. The problem with other sports is they don't have that. If you look at badminton now, where is someone aspiring to play? And what are the structures? Let's say you're aspiring to play in China. What are the structures in China, in Malaysia, or wherever, Japan, that are making the athletes so good that we should bring back home here in Uganda for us to help our athletes develop.
The Africa #1 for badminton is with us, and she's self-led. Maybe she'll make Uganda the place to aspire to.
Also, maybe the problem with our individual sports is that individual sport all over the world is parent-funded. So you need to have that privilege of, one, having both of your parents alive. True. Then two, having both of your parents supportive. And where you don't have both parents, or maybe where you have both of them, are they financially stable to push you through that? And maybe where you don't have them, are the guardians willing?
I think that comes back to with feeling like we are being burdened by the government or the federation. Because if you tell Ritah, who has no salary, you have no salary, you have no business that brings in big sum of money to push the thing, and then you want me to part with 13 million, pay for a tournament. Yes, I really very much with all my entire blood and vessels and everything to be part of that game.
Yeah.
But then I can't even afford a meal. How am I going to participate in this? You get it? At home, I need to train. I can't even afford to train in a good facility where I could train because I don't have transport to take me to where I'm supposed to train. So I am like, okay, this is what I can afford in a substandard building or institution. Yeah. Let me try and train here. But then, at least if you see that I'm putting a lot of effort into this, as the government, let me put this as the government, together with the Federation, National Councils, Minor, what, all those people in charge. Why aren't you coming up to, just like she said this, spot me out. Yeah. Give me a hand. Don't get me to suffer the first season. I suffer the second season. I suffer the third season. Where is participation going to come in? How many people are going to come to say, they will keep admiring, oh, I like that sport and I would love to be part of that sport. But how are they joining? Because they all know if you have nothing, you can't afford to be in that sport.
When you finished playing last year at the Tokyo 2020 Games, you mentioned something about your physical fitness. I think you made a joke about how you're going to stop eating certain foods so that you could become lighter, like the counterparts that you saw. And I know the Chinese are really heavy on what they do. Would you say that that is also part of, would have been spotted from training? If maybe you had been trained right, you would know that by the time I go for such a heavy international platform, I should have, lost this
kind of pound and all that. I think that comes back when she said they need to hire experts. But I always think because we are growing, we are a small starting organization. Yeah. I wouldn't think they would have, because if they can't have money to help you train, they're not going to be able to pay an expert.
Hiring so I think a coach, there are people willing, even in football, people volunteer. They're not paid.
But I don't know if they okay, volunteers. But still, with our mindset in Africa, at least they will need a return of going back, transport, lunch, that kind of thing. But I would think this should be imparted in our coaches. If you've decided to be a coach, be a coach well-versed. Have the love and passion to coach this kind of person. Know their nature, know what they are capable of and what they are not capable of. Ritah, I know my capability as a person. Yeah. I know the heights I can reach and the heights I can't reach. But the coach will want you to hit the highest note, yet you can only hit the base.
Lack of experts.
Exactly.
The lack of experts.
So you're coaching, but the only coaching they have, the expertise they have in coaching is feed me the shuttle. Blame me for not coming on court early, and then why didn't you attend coaching yesterday? But you're a coach. Can you know my life? Do you know what my health needs? Did you bother to know why I did not come yesterday? Or do you even mind to ask Ritah what happened within? That is called participatory. Like, be part of me because you're coaching me, so you need to know me, Yeah. So with the food, I think they should have known Ritah is not supposed to take milk. Ritah is not supposed to eat meat. I actually got to know that when the 1 week I stayed with David Emong during the camp. He told me, Ritah, we are not supposed to eat meat. With me, meat, we are inseparable. I was like, David, that's out.
Well, he has won some medals, so you should listen to his advice. The only medals that Uganda has.
It was too late, though. But I at least picked a leaf from David Emong because we shared a lot. I had to sit and ask him where he has been doing it, how he has managed to move with this. He actually told me, Ritah, you just have to fight harder. Fight. Mr. Katende told me it's not called fighting because we are not in war or physical fight. But me, I feel like I'm fighting for a strive, was fighting to be somewhere and put. Okay, I'm fighting for me, but I'm also fighting. My biggest thing for fighting is, can I have people that feel like they can't do this, feel like they are left out, feel that they have no hope for life? Can they pick a leaf and be something for themselves than being a burden to someone or to them lives? That is my biggest reason why I'm really being in the games, apart from winning medals and all that, because this time if I'm to win the medals, I think if I really strive so hard, 2024 would be a good timing. But
How many? By the way, how many tournaments or how many events are there before you get to that?
Before, I think right now with the previous meeting we had with Ritah Park, we are supposed to have a limit of 6 tournaments at least, or 4, you know. And the challenge comes in. Today there is Spain. Next year Spain puts up another tournament. This year is scrapped. They consider the current year. So the previous points I had for Spain are going to be scrapped off. That means I am declining in my ranking. I'm declining in my points. You get it? And I don't know why my federation, my coach, could not see that earlier, plan for it, and submit for at least that funding.
So you need at least more than 61 million shillings to be able to qualify.
Yeah, I need approximately 100 million because I'm not alone.
Yeah. Oh,
there's Elizabeth, there's Hassan Mubiru. There are so many other players, but apparently we have 3 active.
And you also need to travel with the coach, which is very important. I
which is
remember
when, yes.
Husna Kukundakwe tried to qualify for the previous Paralympics in 2019. She first traveled without a coach. And the coach was coaching her on WhatsApp through video calls and all that.
She's shaking her head.
So eventually she had another opportunity to go and said there is no way I can travel without a coach. In fact, if there is no coach,
there's
then
no
I
need
just
for me
can't
to travel.
So she went and performed better because there was a coach in her presence.
You know,
and she managed to qualify.
To add on that, sorry, when you speak about coach guidance, I think coach plays 50% of the game. For example, in the previous Uganda International, trust me, when you have a right coach, you will perform. But if you have a coach who's going to back at you on court, who's going to show you you're doing wrong on court, that is not time for your emotional things. Keep calm, just be smooth and guide me. Not even the entire tournament. You're not supposed to even shout at because I have emotions too. That means when I'm angry, my performance is going to reduce, my body is changing.
And we are women.
Exactly.
there's a contribution you had wanted to make.
Yes, actually, I was talking about without a coach. You see, that's why I always talk about federations who can afford, or can bring people. They need experts. You talked about 2016. 4 years without a senior national team. Not knowing where I got these girls from, like Fauzia. Everyone was excited. We are organizing Sekafa, we have to take it. You can't get it. My message to the players is like, this is our chance. After 5 years, you need to show the public and all Ugandans that we are here, we can do something. Play your game, just sell it, okay? And then the administrators, because they lack the expertise, managed not to give us a goalkeeper coach. And that was my time when I wanted to introduce Ritah to the senior team after 2013. Now can you see that? Throughout the tournament, we had no goalkeeper coach. Ritah, for me, she was ready to be on the senior national team, but she had no coach. Every morning she would come and say, Coach, what do I do? I said, remember what Coach Chiwa told you? Then we started calling Coach Chiwa to tell Ruth what to do. He was chased away because of the, I don't know, like because he went to KCC game, I would say, and our team's manager, Mr. Antege, decided to say he's indisciplined, but he's paid by KCC, he has no contract. So now at the end, they were squad 4-4, and people are saying, why are they being squad 4-4? You are discouraging Ruth, an upcoming player, a very good player. Why don't you look at Ruth and say, this lady, this young girl has no coach? But we managed to go throughout the tournament without a goalkeeper coach, and she was among the best, cleverly done, because she was determined and how we talked to her. I would tell, let them score you 6, but you are the national team goalkeeper because you have the potential. People are celebrating because Ruth went to Finland for professional, but do they know what Ruth went through in 2016 without their excitement? Do you get that?
And we'll bash as
we are always being exploited.
Well.
Who cannot see that? That a team, a girl, a young woman, a national team needs coaches. We need as many coaches as possible. We need nutritionists, we need physios, we need technical coaches, we need everything as women, and we have talent, we'll participate and be even better than
Just one thing I can ask as we wind up the game, do you feel, because media plays a very key role in bringing out those issues that you're highlighting, and that's the reason why CTV has offered this platform so that they can come out.
Thank you so much.
But in your relationship, do you feel like we are doing enough or what more would you tell us to do as media?
Media is doing enough for me. Like, they always come and ask those sensitive questions.
Yeah.
But if you are not like
Ritah
or Majidah, you just shy off.
Yeah.
But for us, exactly. But for us,
the wrong.
exactly, or defend the wrong. You see. So unless, and I'm happy for Ritah.
Yeah.
She's already a mentor now.
Yeah.
Because she's going to use her experience to mentor other girls, and she can be the change you want to see.
Thank you.
You don't mind about being a national team coach if things are not going well for the other athletes. You rather quit and do the best. You advocate for others. Now, when we see, like for football, girls going out, girls going studying and getting scholarship, who started it? Okay? How did it come up? You found it there, now you're celebrating. So Ritah, just go on. Be the change you want to be in badminton.
Ritah, what's your take on how you've been working? What message would you have for media people?
I really appreciate media because ever since I joined the sport, I think they've really done much with raising our
voices.
Yes, they've really raised our voices. Even when the organization or the institutions don't need it, they will get it. Because, and I love the creation, the rapport media personnel create between athletes and journalists. And that rapport, to the extent that a journalist will call you, on a friendly basis, but looking for that particular information. By the time you know it, he was tagging you. You're like, oh, I did.
I'll tell you a secret. The best stories are done away from. Okay, there are two ways. After an athlete has just performed, and you get them right in that emotion, that's when you're going to get the exact feeling.
Exactly.
But if you want to create their best story, understand where they come from or what exactly they feel about the entire sporting environment around them, then you've got to get them in a friendly manner. Don't do an interview. Just sit with them and talk.
Yeah.
So when you see them approaching you, just know that's
what's actually, journalists have been very good. Like right from when I was an athlete, they were coming to us. But like we were talking to them. And for us, maybe we are born being advocate. Like we would say the bad and good. Yeah. And even when I grew up, like being a national team coach or whatever, sometimes I think so much about the athletes and be free to tell them what's happening than protecting this job which I have or I don't have. Yeah. So, and they've helped us, like us people who speak out, to advocate. When I say something, they would say it. So I'd like to appreciate the media.
And sure, there's no way we will develop to a level where we want if we all keep quiet. Or if we all decide to quit because we can't manage the hustle and fighting the big boys.
Yeah.
So the big boys allow us fight you, but we are putting things right. We want the future, the world ahead of us to live a peaceful and non-biased.
It's for the good of Uganda.
Yeah, we are not here to war or something, but we want to see us in the European style or those
Ritah,
countries we admire.
The best word we would use. We are not here as politicians.
Exactly.
We just want sports development.
Exactly.
And being considered as women and also men. We need fairness. To be treated fair.
And I know that you're looking at sports, not just as sports in itself, but you've been working to use sports as a channel for empowerment and for mentorship. If you can tell us briefly about that on what you have realized, very briefly.
Because for me, I always saw things and I wanted to speak out.
Yeah.
So I thought that I'll not be a technical coach, but I'll just go away with that technical thing. I have it now, I'm teaching coaches, but let me go for mentorship so I can advocate more. So mentorship is all about telling people like the truth, one, knowing what is wrong and what is right, and also advocating, like you play sport but don't allow it to be exploited. If you're playing for Kawempa and they're not providing you a bursary, just go away. Play football to give you an example of schools. Play football, get that education. After continue with your education, telling the players or the athletes the truth that once you only look at playing football, you'll be like my colleague Manashi. But once you do both, or maybe if you don't have a chance to go to school, can you start thinking? And then now think in a professional way. I'm telling these players, if you think that it's football, like football you're going to play, now think beyond. I want to be a professional. I don't want to play in Uganda because Uganda is so amateur.
Yeah.
Okay? So you have the talent and then work hard. So mentorship, basically, I was mentored by the Global Sports Mentorship Program. I've been mentored since, and I travel in US, wherever, but that's not the case. Me as Majidah, initially I was a leader and I was an advocate, and thank God I was a top athlete. So I know that if I don't talk about bad things, and as well good things, I appreciate good things, but if there are bad things, we also have to talk about them. So that goes around, and I don't mind about getting money, okay? I don't mind about being a technical coach, just on the bench and see girls being exploited. But I go out to the community at any time, talk to women and girls, inspire them to join sports, but also talk about issues
that affect girls.
Exactly.
And I want to thank you so much for your time. Our time is out, but the main things that I've taken out, what needs to be done to improve sports in Uganda and also the participation of women in Uganda is one, improving administration. You talked about, I think we need to be intentional on the leaders that we bring as administrators. That will bring about scouting of young talent, especially those who are living with disabilities. We've talked about mentorship. We've talked about funding, that we cannot overemphasize it.
And also
leadership training. And then there is enlightening players, informing them about their rights, which needs to be done. I think that's also an action point for us.
Lastly, two things. The mentorship. The ladies need to start now combining. Like, she has her experiences in football. Can she do more mentorship for players that are playing netball, badminton, boxing, and all
when
that?
I go to the community, I was in Msitima. I officiated a netball game. I went for volleyball, football. For me, community, I don't say play training. Football. So I'll also tell you, if you want badminton, do it.
And I believe that you're going to do a lot of work together. So on what needs to improve when you do the coaches training, so informing them about transportation, facilitation, and nutrition. And when we do all that, we believe that the participation of women in sports will go to an even better level. So I'd like to thank you so much for making the time to be with us. And I believe that someone out there has taken something out of this, and you're always welcome to be with us here at CTV. Well, this has been CTV Month of the Woman, which is special programming that we are bringing to you to highlight issues that affect women and girls in society in celebration of the International Women's Month. And I've been your host, Amelia Martha Nachtimbo. Brunch request will be coming up at the top of the hour, and more programming is lined up for you. Don't blink.